My Nerd World.
Where's the revolution? Come on, people, you're letting me down. Where's the revolution? Come on, people, you're letting me down.
Hello, Depeche Mode fans, and welcome to episode number 9 of Depeche Mode, the podcast. I am your host, John Justice, your weekly, well, it's been weekly so far, look into all things Depeche Mode as we continue, again, discussion, promotion, the warm-up shows, all surrounding Depeche Mode's latest release, Spirit. In the podcast this week, I'm finally going to get to, this is the plan, at least, and I think I've laid it out where I can make this happen. I'm finally going to get to some of the emails that I had planned to get to on previous podcasts, but just had not had the opportunity and ran out of time. So if you want to email TalkShowNerd at gmail.com, always welcome your emails. So we're going to work through some of those, and I'll comment on those that have written in to the show. Talk a little bit about the warm-up shows that have been taking place until the tour officially gets underway in May. A little surprised by this, too. I know that the band has done warm-up shows before, but, I mean, they're really not leaving much apart from whatever the stage setup is going to look like and the visuals that I assume Anton Corbijn is doing again. They're not leaving much mystery over the set list. When I look at one of the latest shows that took place earlier in the week in Scotland, it's a pretty long set list. I mean, we're only 5 or 6 songs out of an entire full show set list, and the band isn't necessarily known for switching up too many songs on tour, apart from the Martin Gore solos and the occasional swapping out of 2, maybe 3 songs, but usually there's about 2 songs that they'll switch out. I mean, if anything, we've seen the band in the past go out on tour with a much longer set list and then begin to pare it back as the tour goes on. That was certainly the case with Delta Machine. I remember that tour was actually, that was both Delta Machine and Sounds of the Universe. The tour started out with a much longer set list, and by the time that I saw the tour in the U.S. in Phoenix, Arizona, they had cut back on the set list quite a bit. So we will talk a little bit about what we know so far of the set list, what we've seen so far from the band live on stage, and again, get to your emails this week. Want to start off here, though, just kind of my week in Depeche Mode. I took a break from Spirit. I had been listening to it pretty much exclusively when going and listening to music. I listen to a lot of different podcasts. I mean, My Nerd World, again, I do several different podcasts on top of my weekly radio show here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I do a weekly radio show 6 to 9 here on Twin Cities News Talk, Monday through Friday. And then I do my hobby podcast. This one, I'm a big NASCAR Dale Jr. fan and a big Star Wars fan, so I do weekly podcasts for those as well. So I listen to a lot of different podcasts, but apart from that, I had been listening pretty much exclusively to Spirit and had decided to take a break. And just probably too much information that you need to know, but when I get to work in the morning, I have things I have to do just around the office itself. I have to make copies of all of our prep for me and the other hosts on the show. I have to sort of get those organized and make sure everybody's got them. It's just part of what I do as being a host of the show. And then just go through my normal routine of getting coffee and stuff like that. When I do that, because I'm there before anybody else on the show is, usually for about 40 minutes or so, I keep my headphones in, and I just listen to music. And I've been doing that, listening to Spirit, and decided to take a bit of a break and throwing on a different playlist and been listening to some of the other songs that I listen to kind of get me motivated while I'm working in the morning. So after a couple days of not hearing anything from the album, well, that's not true. At night when I go to bed, I do have a Depeche Mode playlist, and I had been listening to it as I fall asleep, but had been honestly falling asleep pretty pretty quickly, so I hadn't really been listening to much of it at all. So yesterday and then this morning, I decided to go back and listen to the album again, and was very pleasantly surprised. And what I specifically did was, rather than listen to it with a focus on it after having not listened to the full album for a while, I just put it on while I was doing my work yesterday and today, and again, just sort of reconfirming how much I love this album. Because I do think that we somewhat get blinded in our excitement over. I mean, I know I have. We get excited, we get blinded by our excitement of the band having put out new material, and I think sometimes we look at it through rose-colored glasses and aren't really being all that objective. And so this is a process. This is something that I do with every single Depeche Mode record. And for example, last time with Delta Machine, I remember listening to it out of the gate and thought it was great, and then going back to it, it really just didn't stick to me. And when it comes to Spirit, it is sticking. I'm still having the issue that I was having before with the album. I think Eternal and Poor Man are my least favorite tracks, but if I take those two out, this is again one of the most consistent releases that the band has done, in my opinion, since Violator and Songs of Faith and Devotion. I know a lot of people put Ultra in there, but really this one is up there with those records. And I found myself when listening to the record again, after having taken a few days off, gravitating towards some songs in a way that I wasn't before. A song like Scum, while I really liked it, has really grown on me a lot. And currently, while Poison Heart is still, I think, my favorite song on the album, No More This Is the Last Time is climbing the charts. That song has been getting a lot of repeat listens this morning as I've been doing my work. All right, let's switch over to a bit of discussion around the warm-up shows. And a lot of these are available up on YouTube if you haven't gone and watched them already. If you don't want to be spoiled about the set list, I would certainly encourage you to avoid it. But consider this your spoiler warning. I did talk about this a little bit on last week's show, but consider this your spoiler warning, because I am going to talk about the set list. And so if you don't want to know which songs they're playing and what songs they're playing, again, I would certainly skip forward just a few minutes. But the most recent one and the most recent warm-up show the band did was in Scotland. Sold-out show, about 2,100 in attendance. They ended up doing a 12-song set. So, and this is pretty similar to all the other warm-up shows seem to be some version of this, but fewer songs. This seems to be the biggest and the longest set list so far. But they've been opening the show with Going Backwards, So Much Love, Corrupt, A Pain That I'm Used To, which is the remix version, the same one they did on the last tour, which I think is amazing. World in My Eyes, Cover Me. Martin did do Home with the full band. Where's the Revolution, Barrel of a Gun, Walking in My Shoes, Personal Jesus, and then the encore was Enjoy the Silence. And so, again, at 12 songs, I think the band usually averages about 19. I mean, there's not a whole lot of room in here to add apart from some of the hits. You got to imagine they're going to be doing Never Let Me Down Again. I think that they were rehearsing Everything Counts, which again would certainly seem to fit with the tour. But in terms of surprises and what we expect specifically from Spirit, again, it looks like Going Backwards, So Much Love, Cover Me, and Where's the Revolution seem to be the 4 songs that we're getting so far. I hope they do more. When I go see the band, and again, I don't have tickets yet to see this particular tour, as I've talked about, but I was disappointed the last tour that they did so few songs off of Delta Machine. I miss the tours, and it's been several since this has happened. I miss the tours where they do a majority of the album. I think Songs of Faith and Devotion, they did pretty close to the whole album. Violator, pretty close to the whole album. I mean, here you've got a 12-track album, and we're only getting right now, based off a 12-song set list, we're only getting 4 songs off of that. Now, sometimes it gets supplemented, so, I know that Martin, I think he's done Eternal, so that gives you 5, but, I want to see, and I want to hear, and when they release the Blu-ray DVD of the concert, I'd like to see most of the album be included. And I know the band's in a tough spot because their playlist is so vast and they have so many options and there are so many different types of fans and different levels of fandom that are coming out to the shows, and so they want to go and make everybody happy. I get that. During the Violator, Music for the Masses, Violator, and Songs of Faith and Devotion era, the height of their popularity, I think they were afforded a bit of latitude to do more songs off of their album. 1, because their catalog wasn't quite as big, and 2, because the fan base was into those albums specifically. There's a lot of people going out to Depeche Mode shows that won't even probably bother to buy Spirit. And so I think the band, and certainly in interviews of the past, has been very keen to say, it's kind of tough choosing the playlist, and we have to appeal to everybody. What I do like about this playlist, and again, I mentioned this on on last week's podcast, but what I do like about this particular playlist is that they are giving it a nice, good, well-rounded feel. I mean, adding in Corrupt, continuing to do A Pain That I'm Used To, putting in Barrel of a Gun, along with the Spirit tracks. I mean, to me, that really lends itself to a very cohesive set. And I'm hoping that Anton brings that specifically Songs of Faith and Devotion vibe to this tour. And I guess it's not fair. That's not really fair to say, because Playing the Angel I liked that stage set. Sounds of the Universe was probably my least favorite. It did kind of go with the album, but that was probably my least favorite stage set. And Exciter was kind of boring, but I did like what they did on Playing the Angel. Certainly, again, going back to Songs of Faith and Devotion and the World Violation tour, nothing has topped the Songs of Faith and Devotion tour, in my opinion, in terms of stage setup. So, throughout the years, Anton has taken a much more highlight the band kind of approach, less theatrics. I hope they get back to more of the theatrics. I hope they get back to more of the complicated stage design, multiple levels, having it themed a little bit more. I think this album, and certainly the set list that we've seen so far, really lends itself to that. In terms of the performance, it's been really good. The Scotland show, I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit visually boring. It's pretty stock, just performance footage, not really shot, it's not really shot with any kind of finesse. And the lighting system was really, really bad. The set was washed out in blues and reds for most of it, apart from the spotlight and the banner, the lit up banner in the background for the festival that they were performing. It didn't lend itself to anything visually stunning. So, on the one hand, it's nice because you can kind of just focus on the band's performance. But on the other hand, again, from a visual standpoint, it's kind of just okay. The performance is great, though. I mean, Dave sounds fantastic. I remember, my apologies for my voice this week. I don't know, it's kind of all, my bad. Dave's voice sounds a heck of a lot better than it did on certainly Sounds of the Universe, and I would even argue to a certain extent Delta Machine. It's obvious, the band's getting up there, but Dave is performing great. He's obviously in good health. They sound good. They sound tight. And the versions, not a whole lot of changes. There's a bit of a different intro for World in My Eyes and Walking in My Shoes, but the songs themselves really sound good. And going backwards specifically as a show opener, I think really, really works well. I loved the opener to the Delta Machine tour, Welcome to My World. I liked that song. I didn't think as a show opener it was strong enough. It was a little too thin on the album version sounds very, very, it gets very epic, but just for some reason it didn't have a punch opening the show. I mean, it was the obvious choice to open the show. But to me, going backwards really, really works